So what's it like to tour on a Ducati SuperSport, a 939 in this case? We're going to find out on a 8-day road trip with another SuperSport buddy of mine. And we're headed to the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. Well, we're on our way. Our trip starts near Bribie Island actually, and we're heading down kind of closer to the coast, to the Blue Mountains, staying there for a couple of days to do some hiking, and then coming back more inland. I've just met up with Astrid, my wonderful friend who also rides 939. And we are just making our first fuel stop before we really get this thing underway. So Astrid and I shared the trip planning for this. She's planned most of the way down to the Blue Mountains and I've planned most of the way back. Our plan for today, from what I understand, is, well, we've got to start out on the highway. We're going to then head through to Bow Desert, Rathdowney, Lyons Road to Kyogle, and then I'm not too sure where from there, but we're going to end up in Nambucca Heads for tonight. I guess one of the questions to answer first is, why would you bother touring on a SuperSport? I think the simple answer for me is I can't get enough of riding this bike, so the idea of taking it for a 8-day trip just sounds like heaven. It's not like we're trying to crank out huge kilometres each day. I think we've really only got an average of about 500 kilometres a day planned. A lot of it's twisty roads, which is what this bike loves. But we don't really treat it like a spirited ride. It is a cruise, just to enjoy flowing through the countryside, enjoy that introvert heaven that you get on a motorcycle inside a helmet. And these SuperSports, they're really the do-it-all Ducati. They're fun in the twisties. They're great on longer day rides. If you've watched this channel before, you know I've even taken this bike a couple of times on the track, and it loves that too. You can commute on them if you want to. I just love it because I can take it anywhere that I feel like going. And as Bo and I and Astrid and her bike move through these next 8 days, I'll just share with you reflections, experiences, maybe even some suggestions if I have any, for what it's like to do a road trip, a longer road trip on this Ducati SuperSports. While we're still on the highway, I should probably mention that, well, this bike doesn't have cruise control. A lot of people wish it did have. I've never missed it, to be honest. Partly because I avoid highways where I can, and even when I'm on a highway I like to be in full control of the throttle, just to, I don't know, be ready, I guess, for random actions of other motorists. I did buy a palm rest, but I haven't used it yet. But I know you can probably get some kind of aftermarket. I don't know if you can get a cruise control, but a throttle lock of some kind, if that matters to you. We've probably only got another 15 minutes or so of highway riding. And then we'll take a turn off and head out through Jinboomba to Bow Desert for our first real stop. Hopefully we'll get a snack there before we keep rolling. And I guess it's about mid-morning. So I'm ready for some food.
So we won't actually need to go into Rathdowney as such. We turn left just on the fringes of town. It's quite definite. Yeah.
I take back what I said about the cruise control. We're in Grafton now, and that Summerland Way from Casino to Grafton, which I don't know, is that like 70, 100? I don't know. It's a lot of kilometres. It's very pretty, but man, my throttle hand was getting so cramped. We're just leaving Grafton and we're on our way to Coffs Harbour. So maybe I will get that palm rest out and give it a try at some point. But now we don't have too much highway to get through. And this is the Grafton Bridge, apparently, over the Clarence River. Forgot to attach the straw of my backpack. Oh, what a pretty bridge. What a pretty river. We're probably going to fill up again when we get to Coffs Harbour. So we filled up around Caboolture when we left. Then we went to Bow Desert and had brunch, and then on through Rathdowney and Lyons Road to Kyogle, where we filled up again, and then from Kyogle went on to Casino and Grafton, which we just left, and are now going to Coffs Harbour, and like I said, we'll fill up again there. The range on these bikes, the SuperSports, is probably about 300 kilometres for a tank. Now, I don't push it that far. I think the furthest I've pushed it was to 285 kilometres before I filled up, and that was simply because I had to wait that long till I had another service station when I was out in country roads. But generally we try to fill up around sort of low 200s. I'm pretty happy if I've filled up with about 240 on the trip meter. So yeah, these aren't, I guess, like touring bikes where you've got massive tanks and a long range. But in all honesty, it's very unlikely that I would just ride non-stop until Bo ran out of fuel or needed a refill. Kind of like to stop a bit more frequently, and that's really in part just to get a refresh, because you know, cruising for an hour and a half on a highway has its own kind of fatigue effect. Riding through endless twisties has a different kind of fatigue effect, and so does really rough roads. And we kind of get a mix of that on every day that we're out. So generally we'll take a break every probably hour and a half or so, I imagine. But we probably stop for fuel, stop and have a break, stop for fuel, stop and have a break, and have that kind of a rhythm. It suits us. Ooh. So that's fuel done in Coffs Harbour. It was 10.8 litres and 221 kilometres, if you want to work that out before I get a chance to. We've got another 40 or so kilometres to Nambucca Heads. And we're staying in cabins here at the caravan park. Foreshore Caravan Park, Nambucca Heads. You probably noticed Astrid has the panniers for her SuperSport. I don't. I use Kriega tail packs, and I have got a video about them. But this time round I've kind of mixed up how I usually pack them. So I still have the 20 litre and the two 10 litre packs. But the reason I changed the way I pack them is that I found that trying to get into the 20 litre, which is sitting on the pillion seat, is kind of hard when it's got the other two 10 litres strapped to it. So I have packed the things that I'm likely to want to use during the day while everything's still on the bike. I've tried to pack them into the two 10 litre packs because they're easy to open. So what goes into the 20 litre is basically all my clothes and toiletries, which are in these sort of, not really compression packs, but just organisers. Pair of shoes and a puffer jacket for if and when it gets cold. Then in one of the 10 litre packs I have a tool pack, tyre repair kit including a pump, spare buff and spare gloves, and a water bottle which is kind of empty. I generally just use that for mixing up drinks and, well, shakes and things like that when I'm at accommodation. And also what I put in here is a basic bag that I fill with snacks. At the moment the snacks are over on the kitchen bench because I took this to dinner just with the like key and wallet and phone and all that kind of thing. But that's usually got all of the other snacks in it, and it goes into this pack as well. The other 10 litre has got some walking shoes or hiking shoes because we are going to the Blue Mountains and we are going to go walking. I've got a kit here which has half GoPro related stuff in it and half charging stuff. So I've got a charging bank and a wall charger that's got a few USB ports in it. Rain suit,
It did rain on us for a few minutes today, not enough to bother pulling that out, but the weather's not looking super for the week, so that might be needed. GoPro chest strap, because Astrid's really keen to be part of the videoing of this trip, which is awesome. And I've got a cargo net and a dry pack just in that little thing as a spare in case I find a souvenir I cannot live without. But that's pretty much it for what gets strapped down onto Bo.
This is day 2 and we are en route to Scott's Head and Stuarts Head, or places like that on the coast, on our way down to Wauchope. Well, it rained last night in Nambucca Heads and it's looking like rain this morning at least. So I'm testing out my rain suit, which I've never worn before. I have ridden the SuperSport in quite heavy rain over a mountain. And as inexperienced as I am riding in the rain, I really didn't find I had any issue, just smooth on the controls, as everyone should be, I guess, riding in the rain. And it felt stable and great. Didn't see the traction control light flash on once, so I'm not too concerned if we get a downpour, and at least this time around I'll stay dry. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, because if I haven't got my wet weather gear on and it absolutely pisses down, I'm not stressing about my phone getting wet. Beautiful place for travelling from.
It's a lovely spot.
Okay, so my name is Astrid and Stacey has trusted me with her GoPro on my chest, and now we're just at Wauchope. We're fueled up, ready to go, put our wet weather gear on because it is looking not as nice as it could be, but it is what it is. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So here we go, out of the servo and onto the famous Oxley Highway. Happy days. There she is. She just pointed at the sign. Maybe that was for the camera. I'd say so. Oh, and she's pointed a big hole for me. Oh. Nod, nod, nod. Yeah, they've all got their wet weather gear on. I'm sure a lot of people have nearly wiped themselves out over the years on this corner, just the other side of the bridge. Cars and bikes. Jeez. Sign, next 45 kilometres, winding road. I bet Stacey's grinning in the helmet.
We're at Ginger's Creek, which is about halfway between Wauchope and Walcha. And it rained over the mountain on the way down into Ginger's Creek. That was fun, got some practice. It was beautiful though, it was foggy and the trees just looked gorgeous.
Okay, we're off again. So you're still with Astrid. We've just had a bite to eat at Ginger's Creek Cafe. Oh. Which is good because I think the roads are a bit drier. Since we've stopped. Actually, some of the corners in that last little stint, we had wet roads obviously, and there was cow poo in some of the corners, just sloppy there. Thankfully you could see it and avoid it, but I reckon you'd go, if you weren't concentrating, you could easily hit that and end up going for a slide. Smelly slide. Look at all the beautiful wide open places. Yay!
Yeah, that's enough land.
Go past a zillion parking spots and pick the worst spot in the whole car park.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can hear the lookout. I think I can hear the waterfall, which is right.
I think I can too. No, you don't usually hear a lookout.
Oh, yeah, it's a big drop, isn't it?
It's a huge drop. This is Apsley Falls.
Yep.
Wow. We're just leaving Apsley Falls, which is on the road from, or the Oxley Highway I should say, from Ginger's Creek to Walcha. It was spectacular. I didn't expect it to be such a vista. It is such a deep gorge. It was really spectacular. Well worth the stop. The views along this section of the Oxley are amazing. Such wide open expanses of landscape. It's just beautiful. For road trips like this, I generally do like to map out the route, and I do it using Reva, which is an app that I think probably suits people better who are based in the United States, but it still works out here in Australia. It's got a couple of glitches which kind of make navigating with it a bit of a pain. So if you take a slight detour from what you've mapped, it complains and tells you to U-turn and go back to the last waypoint that you had mapped. It's very hard to skip a waypoint while you're riding. And so when I'm mapping a ride or a route, I really need to be very accurate and precise about where we plan to stop. Another example is when we were in Scott's Head this morning. When I mapped the route, I just put Scott's Head. I didn't find a specific location that would be great to pull up with the bikes and enjoy a view and take a photograph or whatever. So we kind of went through Scott's Head and didn't really see any of it. We got lucky in Stuarts Point
because we just happened to see where the water was and just followed the roads to get there. A lot of rain over there. None over there. That's where we're headed. There's no way to have an integrated navigation system in the dash of the SuperSport. Well, not the 939. I don't know how the 950's dash works. So everything has to be on the phone, or if you've got a special GPS device. But Astrid is a bit old school when it comes to map routing. She likes the paper maps and to have a paper copy of the itinerary and stops and things like that. And you know, I'm probably halfway between. I love digital mapping before I leave. That kind of gives me a sense of where I want to go, and I can do a bit of research into vegan cafes and fuel stops as well to have options. But then once we're on the road, I really don't mind changing the route or going on a bit of an adventure to figure out how to get somewhere, or to stop in and see something as spectacular as Apsley Falls. Sunshine is so pretty just after it's rained. So we're about 10-15 kilometres out of Walcha, where we'll fuel up the bikes, and then we'll have another 120-130 or so kilometres down to our stay for tonight, which is in Gloucester. It's been so cloudy for the trip so far, and even though the sun's not really out right now, that blue sky just looks so pretty. I don't know how Astrid goes on her SuperSport, which is a base model, so she does not have the Öhlins suspension that Bo has. We've ridden over a lot of pretty rough roads, and even in corners hitting rough stuff. Bo's just doesn't seem to get unsettled. I don't know if it's the same with the suspension that Astrid has. I can't remember what she's got on that model. Sunshine. So we've arrived in Gloucester. We've just been on Thunderbolts Way. Geez, that's amazing. It's so curvy and the trees are beautiful and the views are stunning. It was just brilliant. We did get caught behind a fair bit of slow moving traffic, and played leapfrog for a little while. But I'm pretty happy to be arriving at our stop for the night because I just feel tired. There's been some great roads today and they required a little bit of concentration. I nearly made one mistake around a corner. Not a bad one, just took a bad line because there was no speed direction sign going into that one for some reason. And I took it a little too quick, but I always ride with reserve and managed to add a bit more lean without any trouble, so it was all good. Buckets Way Motel. Looks nice. Good morning, we've just left Gloucester. We stayed at the Buckets Way Motel, which was lovely. Clean and just really nice, calm and quiet atmosphere. With a hot shower with lots of water pressure. You can tell that we've got a rainy day ahead of us. I don't know how well we will do in kind of outrunning the rain, but it looks pretty set in. First stop this morning is Dungog for what I hope will be a brunch of vegan waffles. I guess one of the advantages of having a L-twin or V-twin if you prefer is the torque. Because being such a novice riding in the rain, I'm trying to be really smooth on the controls, of course, but I can rely on Bo's torque. So I keep it in a slightly taller gear and just let him burble along underneath me, so nothing's too abrupt. If I've got him slightly overgeared, then the throttle has a little bit less response, I guess. And that's, I think, not only useful, I'm finding, on wet roads, but I've also found it useful on how bad these roads are in terms of condition. So when I have to go through a series of probably, let's say, 100 metres where there might be 2.5 million potholes refilled, again, just letting him burble across that, he stays really stable. So that just makes it really easy to manage when you're doing a lot of roads like that, like it tends to be on these road trips in Australia. But I am finding riding in the rain very peaceful. The only thing that's uncomfortable is I don't have any waterproof gloves, so my hands are quite wet. But it's not cold, and if it does get a little bit cool, I'll just turn the heated grips on, which will help a little. I got the heated grips on at medium. These are the Ducati OEM heated grips, by the way. And it was Astrid's suggestion yesterday to try this because your hands do get a bit cold when they're very wet with the wind chill, as you probably well know. I don't know if you can see, I'm really not kidding about millions of potholes. Most of them have been filled, of course, but there's still the odd one that's emptied itself out again. There's a few there. So I think it probably says something for the SuperSport that someone who's a fairly novice motorcyclist as me, I've only been riding for 5 years, haven't ridden much in the rain, as I keep telling you, and even still the bike just absorbs all of this road condition, and I'm not feeling unsafe, I'm not feeling out of my depth. I just feel like I'm riding a bike on a road. It's just such a smooth, stable experience on this SuperSport. We had rain pretty much all the way from Gloucester to Singleton, and we've just filled up in Singleton, ready for the Putty Road, which I believe is another famous motorcycling road. Neither Astrid nor I have done this before, and I think halfway along the Putty Road, see, Putty Road, we're going to stop at Grey's Cafe for a bit of a rest. There's a fair bit of damage along this road. That whole lane's been closed for the last sort of kilometre. They're obviously repairing it. But all these curves is clearly why this is a motorcycle road. Our SuperSport does have a USB charger under the seat, and I've run a USB charging cord from there up beside the tank, inside the frame, and then up some of the wiring loom just up here. But the trouble with that is, in the rain, like we've had plenty of so far, that cord just gets wet. And I learned about that problem when I plugged my phone in yesterday morning, and my phone immediately told me to get the cord out. I guess it sensed that it was wet, and maybe that changes the current or something. So yesterday I just let the cord hang out in the wind, and it eventually dried out, and then I could charge my phone again, but that's not a really good solution. I'm sure there's something else other people have found for running some kind of waterproof USB charging thing up to the bars or somewhere up near the dash. But I realise the importance of that now with touring, because if I can't keep my phone charged, Reva and the music that I like to listen to will drain the battery very quickly. That's handy. We're at the Grey Gum Cafe halfway along Putty Road. Astrid and her quick exits. Always pushing back so hard. Is it uphill? We left Greygun's Cafe. We went to Currajong Hills, or Currajong Hills, I don't know how to say it. And we are now on the Bells line of road to Blackheath, which will be our turn off toward Katoomba. I dropped my helmet and scratched my very beautiful transitions visor. It hasn't really distracted me too much looking through it. I guess it's just like a permanent bug splatter. The temperature's come down a fair bit. We haven't had any rain since the Grey Gum Cafe, or since before then really. Most of the Putty Road was dry, which is good because there are fun curves on that road. Yeah, climbing up into the Blue Mountains, you can definitely feel the temperature dropping, which is lovely, nice and refreshing. I hope I remember to show you the special feature that the SuperSport has for drying wet gloves. This is the last few kilometres into Katoomba. Far out. I am really done. This is mind-boggling. It's just endless. Endless rainforest, ferns, creeks, red crayfish. It's stunning. I think we're here. I think we're at, what was it called again? Evans Lookout? This does remind me a bit of the Grand Canyon. Not as deep, obviously. More trees, similar colours maybe. Look at the size of it. We're staying in this little cottage in Katoomba for our 3-night stay. The bikes have stayed there. It's a pretty quiet neighbourhood, so we're not too worried that they're still visible from the street. But the cottage has been super nice to relax in while we've been hiking for the last 2 days. They would have been on wet grass, yeah.
But they had a hose and we were able to wash them.
True, we did. We cleaned them, lubed the chains,
Yep.
ready for the next 3 days. We're leaving Katoomba and it is 4 degrees. It's pretty bloody cold. We're headed to Bathurst. If you're not Australian, that's the home of one of Australia's greatest motorsport events each year in October. The Bathurst 1000 Supercars event. It's at Mount Panorama and we are going to do a hot lap, but it'll have to be slow because everyone wants to do a hot lap, so I understand it's pretty heavily policed. Doesn't matter, we get to see the circuit. And then from Bathurst, some nice backcountry roads that will take us to Queensland tonight for our stop. We're trying to weave our way out of Katoomba, kind of the scenic way. But also to avoid the really steep hill starts and off-camber turns that are up in the town centre. We're both a little bit height challenged. I'm so rugged up, I feel like Michelin Man. I can't turn my head. I can't feel my hands. Where did Astrid go? We're on Sodwell's Road on the way to Tirana, which is a back way to Bathurst. It's rough and the potholes are deep. This is Bathurst. What a cold ride it was to get here. I guess that's it. Do you want to go? We're in Pit Straight. I'll tell you what, it looks different in person than it does on television. So it's a public road, it's two-way, and it has a speed limit. Look at that beautiful view. So we're just cruising around it to see it. Fun corner. There's a view from here apparently, so why not stop, hey? Let's resume.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
What a view. I think I'd love a hot lap in one of the V8 supercars. That would be so cool. There's a steep one there. It's amazing how different it feels driving it to seeing it on TV. And there you have it, Mount Panorama. Got to come back. It's coffee time!
Was the fastest messenger. It will always make sure that it would go and deliver the message saying it would only catch enough fish so they're clan or family group. Never take away from anything that you don't need.
Kriega is a lovely town. We had an awesome dinner at the Terminus Hotel and watched the lovely light show at these silos. My clutch hand is getting sore. Aren't they great? We've been talking about doing a painted silos tour. There's so many of them these days. It's kangaroo o'clock, so we are going at a steady pace. Astrid and I were talking while we were hiking in the Blue Mountains a couple of days ago about the kilometres that we've been doing each day. It probably doesn't sound like much. Like, I think most days we've done just a little bit around 500 kilometres. But it's the roads that we're doing the 500 kilometres on, I think, that's making the days very long. Yesterday was, I think, 480 kilometres. And that was 9 hours because of the condition of the roads where we're sort of slowing down a bit when there's just a billion potholes. And also quite twisty, curvy country roads that it's not the same as blasting down the highway. That's why we have these bikes, is to enjoy the twisty, curvy country roads. But 500 kilometres just seems a bit much. Now, it's not too much because the bikes are uncomfortable. I honestly, 9 hours in the saddle has not left me sore anywhere. Probably the only place I feel a little bit sore is my clutch hand, but I've got little hands even for a female. That doesn't bother me. But my back's not sore, my bum's not sore, my neck's not sore. I feel great, really. I think it's the mental fatigue of constantly looking out for kangaroos or wallabies or wombats, looking out for potholes, trying to constantly pick your best line through a corner that's riddled with road damage, and concentrating on very tight curves that are on roads we've never ridden before. So the mental fatigue is probably it, and I think we would reduce our kilometres if we were going to do similar rides like this. Look, this bike will sit so comfortably on a highway, and in fact that was my first ride on it. When I went to pick it up, I rode it home down the Bruce Highway, and I could not believe just how comfortable I felt, how protected from the wind I was, and how stable the bike felt, even going past trucks. But highway riding is not what I call fun, and Astrid's not really a great fan of it either. We like exploring the back roads. So that's what we'll do next time. We'll make the days a bit shorter and arrive at our destination just a little bit earlier and be a bit more rested for the next day. But for this trip, I can honestly say that feeling tired at the end of the day was no problem for me, because the best way to feel that tired at the end of the day is to be riding one of these things. Our first stop today is in Tamworth, Astrid's hometown, just to do the touristy thing of checking out the Golden Guitar, Tamworth being the home of country music, I think, really, in Australia, from my understanding. This landscape's so pretty. I love that beige colour of the grass. It's quite a contrast to all the green that we've been seeing so far on this trip. So the bikes are doing really well. We haven't really had a single issue. They just keep burbling along. We did give them a bit of a wash down and lube the chains when we were in Katoomba, because they'd done about 1,500 kilometres, and both of us kind of like to clean the chains and get some lube on them about every 1,000 k's. And we'll air up the tyres at our first stop today too. Maybe my clutch hand wouldn't be as sore if I used the Quickshifter a lot more. I don't know why. I do, toward the end of the day, I use it shifting up, but virtually never use it shifting down, partly because I'm on a constant quest to master rev matching. And so I take whatever opportunity I can to practice that. And I also like to practice smooth shifting. I like the idea of being able to shift without even feeling the bike change. Astrid doesn't have a quick shifter on her bike. I know she can do clutchless shifting going up, but she doesn't seem to be bothered by the absence of it either. The bow is about to officially turn 50,000 kilometres old. At 49,998. The sun is in the wrong place to capture this, but I really hope we get it. There he is, 50,000. I know there are plenty of SuperSports with more kilometres on them than Bo has, but there are plenty with not as much. I just hope this bike lasts me a long, long time, many tens of thousands of kilometres more. If you have one and you've got more than 50,000 on the odometer, kilometres that is, not miles, I'd like to hear about it in the comments. Tell me how the bike's going. Tamworth's Golden Guitar.
My first thought was, I thought, oh fuck, that cop turned around and he's got Stacey.
Oh wow, yeah.
First thing I thought. Oh no.
I'm not sure if I would have preferred that or not. So I pulled over on the side of the road because Beau's temperature started flashing high. It's a cold day. It shouldn't happen. He didn't feel hot when I pulled over, and he's got all his coolant still in him, didn't lose any power, and even after just a couple of minutes of sitting on the side of the road, the temperature was only 71 degrees Celsius. So I have a feeling I've got a faulty temperature sender. I will be stopping in Urella in about 15 kilometres, so if anything goes wrong, I'll ring my mechanic and see what he reckons.
And we're just kidding up to, we've just left Urella, or we're about to leave Urella, sorry. Just kidding up, ready for the next little section of our ride. And you're on board with Astrid, by the way. Stacey's best riding buddy. We're just going to wave to these gentlemen in the cafe that we were just talking to, in case they're actually still watching us. It's a nice time of year to be around this part of the world because the autumn leaves start to go autumny. So I bought this SuperSport in 2019, towards the end of the year. It's a 2018 model, and I got a substantial amount reduced off the price because I think they were trying to shift the stock ready for the next year's stock. And they gave me a good deal on the 1200 Monster that I had to trade in. So I took the deal, and part of that was to fit panniers. Love the bike, love to tour on it. It's quite similar to the Monster in a lot of ways, but it's a lot smoother. I don't have the horsepower that I had on the Monster. It was a 1200, this is the 937. But this bike is a lot smoother, just going through the gears and stuff. It feels a lot less clunky. It's comfortable enough. I've got little bar risers on mine just because I'm so short through my torso. It just makes me not lean so forward and stretched, because not only am I short through the torso, but I've got short arms as well. Oh, and short legs, of course. Oh, by the way, I should mention, when I got the bike, they pulled the front forks through just a little bit, and they backed off the preload off the rear suspension a little bit as well, just to give me a little bit more foot on the ground. Come on, mate. It's a fucking leak. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Stacey. So, what do I think of the panniers? Oh dear. They cost such a lot of money for what they are. I just don't think they're worth it. I mean, okay, yeah, I've got somewhere to put my luggage, but I don't like the shape of them. They just make it awkward to pack. I just don't think, I think they could have made the shape a little bit better, which would have given you a little bit more space to pack things. They're really annoying with this particular trip because I brought my hiking shoes specifically because we were hiking in the Blue Mountains, and they're taking up room that I wouldn't normally have.
Amazing. You just don't expect this to be here.
We had a nice little walk up to Thunderbolts Lookout, which is out in the middle of nowhere, but it is worth it. Today, Bo is pretending to be a dirt bike. There's only a couple of 100 metres of this to get back out onto the road. And our next stop is Tenterfield, which is where we're staying tonight. It's only about 45 kilometres away. We'll be getting there, thankfully, a little bit earlier than we have on our previous days, which is nice. You see the kangaroo? That's probably a wallaby, actually. And we're off. This is Torrington. It's in the middle of nowhere, it seems, just like Thunderbolts Lookout. But what a groovy place to live. And like most of the roads that we've been riding on, there's potholes everywhere. If I point out every single pothole for Astrid, my legs get quite the workout. So what are we up? This is our second last day of the road trip. I don't think either of us want it to end quite yet. Red belly black snake just there on the road. This is a crappy, rough road, and I don't trust it enough to go much faster because potholes can just pop up out of nowhere, and some of those dips in the causeways have very sharp entries and exits on the concrete. It also seems to already be kangaroo o'clock PM, so I'm keeping a lookout for them. And some of the older bitumen sections seem to have unexpected bumps that you can't really see until you're almost on them. But I don't care, because this road is taking us through the prettiest countryside. That was so worth it. And the name of the road is Castlerag Road. Or if you're from New South Wales, maybe you say Castlerag. But now we're back on the New England Highway, ready to head into Tenterfield. Good. I was feeling really tired yesterday after a long day's riding, but I'm feeling pretty good today. Like I'm not really ready for it to end in Tenterfield. Just pull the clutch in so I can see in my mirrors that Astrid's finally gotten around that truck. Might be too far behind, I don't imagine. There's plenty of overtaking space here. Astrid's much better at overtaking than I am. She seems to be able to time things really well when I'm a little bit too much on the cautious side. But she's got the 20-something years of riding experience, so she's done a lot more overtaking than I have. I've learned a lot from her actually, and especially with this sort of riding.
R8. I wanted one of them, a wagon. 20 kilometres to Tenterfield. This is where we're staying in Tenterfield. It's really cute. The bikes get undercover parking.
So this morning we left Tenterfield and we went to a nice country road to Lagoon, which is about 90 odd kilometres, and we discussed it last night that if we left early we had to accept that it was kangaroo o'clock and have that as our mindset, and thank God we did, because we saw so many kangaroos. It's like mum, dad, the kids, the cousins, aunts and uncles. That's how many we saw. And we just took it through there nice and steady, just constantly scanning the sides of the roads. The bikes are going really, really well. Absolutely can't fault them. We did have the little temper sensor issue with Stacey's bike, and then my fuel gauge, I've been fueling up, and then the fuel gauge won't sort of go back to the saying that it's full. It's been doing that for probably the second half of this trip, but then bugging me this morning. I've just got more fuel, and it's happy that it says it's full now. Oh gosh. Funnily enough, I've owned a lot of bikes over the years that didn't even have a fuel gauge, so good old trip meters. Tried and tested and won't let you down. Yeah, so I might just see how this fuel sensor goes. Not bothering me too much, to be honest. Like I said, trip meter always works. Speaking of which, we've done 2,552 kilometres since we left home. I think it was 1,375 on the trip meter to get to Katoomba, plus 20 kilometres from home to the servo where I set the trip meter at the servo. So we might be roughly the same heading home, kilometres wise. Stacey's very kind-hearted and she's the best travelling companion. This trip is about 1,000% better than it would have been if I'd been on my own, and that's 900% thanks to her. We just seem to run on the same sort of time clocks. We're both early birds. Go for it. Don't like to sort of faff around in the morning. We like to get going. I think Stacey's getting ready to overtake, so I might just catch her up a bit. Yep, I was right. She's going. Amazing how we managed to communicate with each other by watching our body English, I suppose you call it. So I mentioned to her the other day that I'm in front and I overtake. We're trying to get through cars and it's tightish and I've got to tuck back in. I'll always move to the left of the lane. So there's room for her to tuck in as well. She's doing the same for me. Oh!
Really thirsty and really hot.
Same.
Oh,
Same.
I'm going to change my gloves.
Oh, that's a good idea. Can I just get you to undo me, please?
Oh, it's still running.
Oh, I thought I just stopped it.
That long. Well, that's the end of the road trip. We're both homeward bound. I am so lucky to have Astrid as a ride buddy. Like, we're just in sync. Great teamwork the whole week. She's so easy to be around as a person. Looking out for me, and I'm trying my best to look out for her. We ride similarly on these road trips. We have a similar rhythm to when we want to start in the morning and when we need a rest and all of that. So, yep, sensational week with a sensational person. I don't know how much I've shared with you that's useful about taking a Ducati SuperSport 939 on a road trip. I think it's fair to say that I have a road-weary body right now, just a little bit kind of tired and achy, but I really can't attribute that to the SuperSport because it has been mega comfortable. We just had a stop a few minutes ago and a guy came up and he's asking about the bikes, and you know if you've got a SuperSport, you know people are always coming up and admiring them. But he said, how are your bums after such a long trip? And we could honestly say, fine. Like, there's no part of my body that hurts because of this bike. It's a great road trip bike because it's not just about sitting back and cruising in a lounge chair. It's an active ride. So if you really like riding a bike rather than riding on a bike, this would be the pick because it has all of that fun, sporty characteristic, but at the same time is comfortable enough for at least Astrid and I to ride it all day long. If there's anything you've heard me say or you've seen in this video that you've got a reaction to, a suggestion, or share your own experience or ask a question, please do that in the comments. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the ride home now. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time.